Welcome to the Grow Your Practice podcast. Hi, I'm your host, Chad Madden, owner of Madden Physical Therapy and Breakthrough. Join me each week as we dive into the best practices, systems, principles, tips, and tricks to help you grow your private practice. How many of you have a marketing issue? And here's what I mean by this. Does anybody have an open spot on their schedule in the upcoming week? Okay. Anybody not? You just have a wait list. More than 1 week to get in. Couple, 3, 4, 6 weeks. 6 weeks. For those of you that are looking to fill your schedules, anybody have underutilized space? You have, for example, in our Lancaster office, which is our newest office, we see a little over 100 visits a week, but we have 3,000 square feet. We have 2 full-time clinicians. We can handle 6 full-time clinicians in that space. Does anybody want the math on that, how we go through that? In general, how many of you treat like 45 minutes to an hour as your common visit? Right. If you're assuming that, I mean, that's roughly 40 to 60 visits per week per clinician. A general rule of thumb is that if you're operating under a 40-hour work week, treatment week, and you're not expanding, you're not like Deepak who does 6 in the morning until 9 at night, 7 days a week, something like that. Normal 40-hour work week, traditional. For every 1,000 square feet you have, you can see roughly 100 visits per week. If you have a 2,000 square foot space, you should be able to see 200 visits a week, which to me is 4 full-time clinicians, right? If we're taking an average of 50 visits a week, does that make sense? Any questions on that? If you can go through your spaces, even if you have 20 locations or 150 locations, you can look at total square footage, which is what we do all the time, and then how many visits did we see last week, and do we have a greater capacity to see more visits? Or do we need to look at expanding spaces or opening additional offices? That's the game you're playing, the math you're playing. Okay, so 5 pathways we can have new patients come into our office. What's the lowest hanging fruit? Past patients, right? Reactivations. Lowest hanging, just as a test, wanted to make sure I still had it. Texted somebody within the last week. Immediate response came in same day. Like literally we got them in the same day. I'll share the message. Some form of how are you? How is this? It worked so well I did it the next day. So I did it 5 days in a row. This is not hard. You are more valuable in the marketplace than what you can. If you need to fill space, or how many of you are really, really busy and full, but you have another clinician that's not that full? What should be happening is when their schedule backs off, they should be increasing their output, their outflow, right? To fill up their own schedule. We'll talk about that. Number 1 is reactivations. Lowest hanging fruit, least expense, least time. It's some form of a how are you message. We'll get there in a second. The next level's up. We have 3 referrals, right? So there are 3 groups that can refer to you. What are they? Friends and family, word of mouth referrals. How many of you get word of mouth referrals to grow your practice? Easy. There's a very simple way to ask for those referrals. February 16th, we did a training at our Harrisburg facility, which we'll go to tomorrow. Our clinicians were using some wild ways to ask. And I just said, this is simple 3-step formula. We had Pat, Eunice, and you'll meet Pat, one of our directors. He went back and did it next week for word of mouth referrals. Very, very simple to execute. We'll talk about that this weekend. So you can have friends and family, word of mouth referrals from patients. What's the next one up? In no particular order. Physicians, nurse practitioners, PAs, whoever can, another clinician referring to you. Whatever your practice act is cool with. Next up is partners. Shared this on a call yesterday with an owner. Who's your number 1 payer? Blue Cross? Anybody else? Blue Cross, number 1 payer? Medicare. Well, Medicare is a bad example for this one. I'll ignore that.
Work comp and actually bad.
Work comp? Okay. Your best private payer. Blue Cross, Blue Shield, likely one of the blues. Who are the top 10 largest employers in your area that offer Blue Cross, Blue Shield to their employees? You should know that answer. If you looked at your EMR and you looked at, patient name, employer, What is the employer that shows up the most on your patient list? There's an answer there. I would want to know what that is. Get Tina Marie on that. Does that make sense? Who are the employers that are showing up the most correlated to the insurance company or willingness to pay for your top patients? You should know who they are. We create relationships with them. We go out into the community, we'll do their lunch and learns, their health fairs, whatever it is, and they promote us for free to their employees. That's a very simple way. And by the way, you can run everything through the Breakthrough software. Unlimited. As many as you want to do. You could do 100 a week of those. And finally, so we've done 4 so far. What's the 5th place we can get new patients from? Cold traffic. Yeah, exactly, Chris. People who don't know, like, and trust us yet. All right. So when we're marketing for profit, I gave you a couple of ideas already. How Target figured out a teen girl was pregnant before her father did. All right, well, let's talk about this. You have data. You have lots of data and information. Most of us overlook that as an advantage. So I just gave you one very simple thing, like whether you're cash-based or insurance-based, you should know who the top employers are in your area that are offering that insurance to their employees, right? Or, yeah, I'll leave it at that. So Target, there's a book, it's called Habit by Charles Duhigg. Fascinating story. Target, so it's called the golden goose of retail, are females who just found out they're pregnant and before they deliver. Target wanted to figure out what was changing in their buying habits. There are 4 things they buy. I remember 2. Washcloths, unscented lotion, and 2 other things.
Prenatal, multivitamins.
It is a multivitamin. Chris, you are good. Get up here. What was the 4th? I was thinking cotton swabs, but I don't think that's right. Anyhow, there's a fourth thing. So what was happening is Target would track every time that a female shopper would buy these 4 things, like, she's expecting. And what happened is there was a 17 or 18-year-old girl, I think she was in Wyoming or Montana, somewhere in the Midwest, and Target figured out that she was pregnant, and they were mailing her house flyers for baby items. Her father was the superintendent or a school principal, something like that, took the flyer and was like, why are you mailing this to my daughter? She was pregnant and hadn't told the family yet. Target adjusted. They're still around. 15 years ago, that story was scary. Like how we can use data to understand where behaviors are at and things along those lines. But there are some basic things that you can do that aren't creepy that help you market for profitability. All right, and it's almost always in the data. I'll give you another example. What is your most profitable diagnosis to treat? Very rare I talk with an owner that is even ever thinking about that. We used to do biofeedback pelvic health. How many of you do pelvic floor? Great. So we used to do that. We had a therapist retire, Mary Ann Gingrich, retired 7 or 8 years ago. We tried to replace her at the time. Nobody wanted to do pelvic health. Sounds like a self-limiting belief. We couldn't find a clinician, and then we did a cost analysis, and we were losing money on it. Great service in the community, but for biofeedback, we were losing money. It cost us more to provide the care than actually the reimbursement that we were getting. So we just abandoned the program and stopped doing it. Make sense? Right? BPPV, awesome when we get it. We see them for 2 or 3 visits, and they're done. Not something that we're going to go to cold traffic marketing with ever. Right? Same thing for us for biofeedback pelvic floor, no. But then we learned more recently to do pelvic health, look at the pelvis, address any obliquities, and that is going significantly better. When we were only doing the biofeedback, it wasn't worthwhile. But you should know that what the most valuable diagnoses are for you to attract in your practice. Rotator cuff, great. Back pain, great for us. Hip and knee, really good. All right. So, why is this important? We talked about in the first 30 minutes, reimbursements are down, right? In general, costs are up, margins are thin for many of us. Industry average in 2018, Bob Kowalik shared this, was 14.6% in private practice. What is it today? Less than 10. That is a problem for most Less than 10% margin is an issue if we're in service-based business. I think that's Greg Crabtree. Simple numbers, big profits. All right, so marketing for profit, 4 steps. We want to identify, we want to hedge our bet. And I'll give another example. So pelvic floor, we just ran our first pelvic floor workshop, worked out really well. I was talking with Katie, right? Great person coming through, Knox PT, right? Great. Yeah, so we loved it. We had clinicians, our clinicians got a little upset that we weren't being inclusive of everybody with pelvic floor issues because we're targeting expecting or new mothers within the ad set. So here's what happened. And I just want to explain this because you can apply it to your practice. So there are 3 main populations of people that have pelvic floor problems as given to us by you that you're serving. So number 1 is expecting or new moms. Number 2 is men, generally older men, with prostate issues. Number 3 is people who are undergoing gender reassignment. They are 3 very different people to talk with, right? We can't talk with a 27-year-old expecting mother the same way in an ad that we can talk with somebody who's undergoing gender reassignment or 74 years old and they're undergoing a prostate procedure, right? Very different. We had to pick one. We did some education. By the way, if you're running pelvic floor and that comes up and your clinicians are upset, let me know. And because I've had that talk now a couple times. But it's the same thing. We want to identify who the most profitable patients are. It would nearly be impossible for us in Harrisburg to go after either prostate, we've tried it before, or gender reassignment. There's not a large enough and responsive enough population here to do that. Very easy to do. The relevance for pregnancy is super high, right? We want to identify who we're targeting. Second thing is figure out ways you can target those patients. Where are they? Expecting moms are on social media. No brainer. zero thought process there for us, but you want to do the same thing. Where's the media? We run very targeted campaigns. As always, we want to track the results and improve as we go along. For example, are there any expecting mom groups in the area? Dan Hintershitz and his wife Maria just had a little girl, Lillian, and I noticed there was a link that I'm a very caring and empathetic person, but I also recognize the business opportunity the second I saw this link. They had a link for share a meal, right? So our staff making meals for Maria and Dan, right? And I was like, oh, like there is a group, there's an organization that has the data for all of these new moms. That is very valuable. Like we're going to build a relationship there. Does that make sense? Looking for things like that, improving, getting better as we go along. We should get better and better over time. Yeah, 3 quick ways: best insurance, reimbursement by condition. Your EMR should be able to give you that, whoever you're with. And then PLTV, that's lifetime patient value by demographic. Maybe age. I'll give you another example. How many of you love to see young athletes? Scholastic athletes. Amazing to work with. I've shared this story a couple times, but very early on, I played baseball. But Tom Walsh probably has more stories about how bad of a baseball player I actually was than anybody else. But early on, I loved working with athletes in private practice. And I worked at an orthopedic group for orthopedic surgeons. We had contracts to 5 local high schools. Some of those high schools that produced fairly decent NFL players from this area. Ricky Waters, for those of you who are my age, LaShawn McCoy, Micah Parsons, all from this, literally 5 minutes away from here. Loved doing that. When I opened up in private practice, one of the first people I had come through by word of mouth referral was a 15-year-old baseball player who was throwing like upper 80s at 15. Like he was legit, like he could have gone somewhere. Was having shoulder and elbow issues. Loved working with him. It was great. And then one day I was working with him. There was a lady who I just saw within the last year. She and her husband still come to us. She was sitting on the table waiting patiently for me to finish up with the young athlete. The young athlete leaves and I said, hey, how you doing? Let's get started. How's everything going? And she said, I have a question for you. Do you like working with young athletes? And I said, absolutely. It's great. She said, yeah, I can tell you that you have a real passion there. And she said, another question. When he leaves here, how many people do you think he's telling them about your services? I was like, well, now that he's asked it that way, probably zero. She was like, that's right. And she said, when I leave here, who do you think I tell? She was like, I tell everybody. And I remember, and she like leaned in, she was like, because honey, I have a yapper. And so it was unreal. And she was like, listen, if you target moms and grandmas, you're going to get the scholastic athlete. But she was like, if you're targeting the scholastic athlete, when he graduates and goes off, he does not want to be here. He wants to be playing baseball. And she was like, you might have it wrong, but she was like, just let it sink in. I got it right away. I was like, okay, like we're changing everything that we're modeled around. But best insurance, reimbursement by condition, lifetime patient value by demographic. Now we target 45 to 64-year-old family-oriented females as our number one demographic. Questions on that?
Before we continue with this episode, here's a word about our course, Profitability Under Pressure.
What would adding $10,000 to your bottom line do for your practice? Let me show you how with our program, Profitability Under Pressure. Hi, I'm Chad Madden, and I'm assuming that you're a private practice owner wrestling with profits, revenue per visit, hiring, and in the end, you want to help more people. I'm here with some exciting news for clinic owners just like you. You don't want to miss this. This course is a game changer. It's helped clinic owners add big numbers to their earnings. People like Joe and Kathy Scarpito, who doubled their clinic's value in under a year. Tony and Melissa Sear, they grew their practice from less than $1 million in revenue to over $3 million each year. Now, you might be thinking, is this all about money? No, it's much more. It's about taking care of your team, your patients, and your family. It's about making your clinic the best it can be. Let's face it, money in private practice isn't growing like it should. But don't worry, that's where our course comes in. In just 3 months, Profitability Under Pressure will teach you important business skills, like how to make more effective use of your space, how to increase your lifetime patient value and improve your payer mix. There's even a special part on hiring and retaining great staff. Joining means that you're not alone. You'll be part of a group of clinic owners, all working to get better. We'll be right there to help you. Are you wondering if this is right for you? Let's find out together. Apply to Profitability Under Pressure. It's easy. There's no pressure, and it's all about your clinic and your practice. You don't want to miss this. The application deadline for the Profitability Under Pressure course is June 7th. The program comes with a $10,000 guarantee. We guarantee that when you implement the strategies in the course, you'll increase your profit by $10,000 or more in 90 days, or your money back. Now's the time to make your clinic stronger. For you, your team, and your patients. Click below to apply.
Thank you for listening this far. Now back to the episode.
Here's some ideas. What's segmentation? What does that mean? You have a list of 10,000 patients, 1,000 patients, 100 patients, 10 patients, doesn't matter. And you say, okay, I'm going to segment by insurance type. Now, instead of 1,000, I have 147 people. I could segment by diagnosis, what they were in here for. I could segment by, if I'm cash-based, I'll do this just for Megan, it's frequency, recency, money, FRM. Frequency is how often they come in. Recency is when's the last time they were here. The more recent, more likely they are to be reactivated. Money is what's the total ever of cash-based services that they've bought or services they've bought from us. Frequency, recency, money. We clear on segmentation? A text campaign with a direct offer. Lindsay, you've done this. What did you do?
Well, I've done it by insurance. I've segmented it though with direct offer. I mean, the best is our laser open houses that we've done, or laser.
Give me a result of something that you did there with a text campaign.
We offered patients to come in for a free laser trial and for an open house, and I think our best one we did, we earned like $7,000 within 4 hours.
Okay, 7,000 in 4 hours from a text campaign.
Yeah, I mean, we've done it through using breakthrough and through separate text messaging, but you
Yep.
know, we just do it to our cash patients.
Two main offers are an event, which you did an open house.
Yep.
Or you can offer straight to an appointment. The one that I've been using most often is the how are you? And it sounds something like this. Hi Megan, this is Chad from Madden PT. It's been 6 months since I last saw you for your shoulder. How are you? That's it. And they respond back 80-90% of the time, and 80 to 90% of those respondents are going to schedule an appointment.
We've done that too, and within one text campaign, I mean, Nicole's director that she works with, Ari, I mean, he got 20 new patients or 22 new patients off of one text campaign with just a simple open-ended question, you know, hey, just want to check in and see how you're doing, how you're feeling. That's the first text campaign, you have to weed out your list a little bit of the people who've moved away or whatever, but once you do it on we do kind of a quarterly basis.
Yeah.
You know, you bring in, I mean, we have clinics that compete against each other to see how many new patients they can bring back in.
Smart. Yeah, reactivation's number one driver for us, over 50% each month coming through. Yes.
Do you find that if it's coming from you personally, like our DMR will do it automatically? And I don't know if you should just kind of disregard it because it's an automated system, but coming from your name, your direct email makes a difference.
The only ones that my name's never on a campaign. So it's the therapist who saw it. Yeah. Yeah. Or if you're going to use a different name. So in my case, what we've done a couple times is this is Itzel. I work with Chad. That we've done as well. So you always have to link to the warm person that they know. But always keep it personal and don't, I'm representing the entire company. Don't do that. You want to rely on the personal connection. Some other errors in texting that we see, which I know we're going to go over later, are you can really get lost in, and I've seen our group do this. Well, if you want to schedule an appointment, do this. If you want to do this, do this. Like, if you have if in your text message, forget it. It's not going to work. Just remove if in there. Yeah, you're not closing straight to an appointment. Ask the open-ended question and then don't say anything. And they will respond back and tell you how bad life is and their pain came back, or are they dealing with another issue, or they're great, and you respond accordingly. You're having a human-to-human conversation once they respond. The partner workshop with the employer, that's something else we can do. You can also do email campaigns. Just as an aside, earlier this week I was in a training session for basically software companies and a ton of different industries that do exactly what we do here, but this was not specific to conservative care. It was all industries, even outside of healthcare. And they were talking about across the board, email deliverability is going up, staying the same, or down over time, right? So they were complaining a lot about email deliverability. We have found it very beneficial to use multimedia. So we'll do phone call, we'll do email, and we'll do text all together. I wouldn't rely on just one. And then if you don't get the exact results you're looking for in one of those categories, just go to another. How many of you prefer to communicate by text? You can get me by text. How many of you prefer to communicate by email? If you email me, I'll never see it. True story. Phone call. You prefer to pick up the phone and call. Go, Paul. You're the only phone caller in this room. Yeah, great. And Megan. All right, great. Okay, so some ideas there. Reimbursement by condition. We just ran this. Went into the EMR. You can run this and see, what each is worth to your practice in terms of revenue. Yeah, do revenue, not what you bill out. You'll want to take a look at that. Yeah, quick thing on averages. So balance and dizziness was our lowest, right? Unless they have a VR or deficit, they're out fairly quick. Back, shoulder, knee, you can see some examples there. The other thing I'll say is this. Every once in a while, one of our clinicians, they'll want to balance out. And whenever that happens and we fall off course a little bit, we always steer back to if we're doing a reactivation for shoulder pain. So I always try to coordinate. If we're doing something in reactivation email for shoulder pain, if we're doing a text campaign, I want it to be shoulder. If we're doing ads, I want it to be shoulder. We have found a bump, and it's fairly significant when we coordinate our diagnosis and campaigns across the board. And here's why I think that happens. Number one driver for us is reactivations, as it should be for most practices over time. But what is happening is the person is on our list is receiving not only an email, but also a text, and they're seeing us on social. And if they see us in more than one place, they'll say, I see you everywhere, right? And they might not even have a shoulder problem, but they'll say, hey, by the way, I see you everywhere. Can you take a look at my knee, right? So that's something that we're willing to do. You're not excluding people that have knee pain or back pain or another issue, but I like to coordinate the diagnoses, and historically, we've found that to work pretty well. You coordinate across the board. Here's another quick and easy way. You can write down how many of you have a patient that you like to treat on one end of the bell curve, and on the other end of the bell curve, there are people that when they're on your schedule, you're like, ugh, right? Well, you can attract systematically, just identify what these people have in common on the positive end, right? So list your 10 favorite, 20 favorite patients that you've ever worked with. What do they have in common? Likely similar demographics, probably similar problems. There's something around your passion or what you're really interested in, and you have the option to do that when you're talking about reactivation or cold traffic marketing. If I'm going into a physician, I say, Dr. Ross, listen, here's the deal. I really want to only treat expecting mothers between the ages of 25 and 35. And by the way, only if they have Capital Blue Cross, no other insurances, because they're our best payer, right? So if you have somebody like that, send them to us. That'd be pretty icky, right? But when you're talking about reactivations or cold traffic marketing or partners, you can hedge your bet there a little bit. The other thing is very easy to look at if you're looking at market message media match, right? And you assume, so early on we assumed that 45 to 64-year-old family-oriented females are our target market, that they were using Facebook a certain way. And then one day I had the wherewithal. I was like, well, we have a couple of these in my family and also some that work for us. Maybe I should understand them a lot better. So I walked out to the front desk and I said, hey, Deb, are you on Facebook? She said, yeah. I said, great. Show me how you go through. Show me how you scroll. It was unreal to me, right? How she interacted with Facebook was way different than what I assumed. She scrolls really fast and she stops at newborn animals and newborn humans and likes it and moves on. And I was like, got it. How would we use that information? Put a baby in the ad. Fair, right? Great. So make sure you understand whatever your target market is, you understand how they're using that media. Yeah, TikTok, Google, whatever it is, you want to understand that. Yeah, so here's the example I gave before. Hey, I think I said Megan. It's Chad from Madden Gilbert PT. It's been 6 months since I last saw you for your shoulder. How are you? Very easy to reactivate from that. 5 times in the last week just by doing this personally. Very simple. If you have slow clinicians, they can do this to their patient list, with their patient list. 6 months to 2 years is the window that we've worked with. For some odd reason, we had a clinician that wanted to go back up to 9 years ago. And I said, well, just focus on this first before you go back 9 years. How many of you have a laser right now? Wow. How many of you are doing shockwave? How many of you are doing cash-based for traction? Triton traction, right? Anything else I missed in there, Mark and Tony? Great. Innovus is here. You're looking to add cash-based services, expand your treatment technology offerings. That's who you want to talk with. The other thing that I want to say is just about our partners in general. These events would not be possible if it weren't for our partners. So we were sharing team wins this morning of what happened last night. When many of you were registering last night and checking in, I just love to see the interaction between you, the owner, who's trying to solve problems, and our partners that are here supporting you. It was absolutely amazing to see. Everybody was smiling. Huge win. Just really cool to see. So Innovus, Mark's been here forever. Tony, first event. Awesome. Welcome to the insanity. This is going to be great. Next up is NewFit. Garrett sent his finest representatives here. I know you have a book. What's the name of the book? Awesome. I read that myself, had Garrett and the group on the podcast. Next up is Prediction Health. Kelly Brown sent her finest. What are your first names again? Aaron and Steven. Awesome. Prediction Health, using AI to give you a compliance score for your documentation. Next up is Roy and Austin. Austin, who frequents the mothership 12 times, right? Yeah, 12 times, great. It's a comedy club in Austin. So very cool. They're with Prompt. How many of you are using Prompt right now? Your EMR? Great. Quite a few of you. Awesome. Yeah, not enough. Very cool. So I know we've had many breakthrough owners who've switched over the last few years. I've been very pleased with Prompt and what they're doing. So thank you for being here as well. Ryan Austin, CRS, Bob Kowalik, resident revenue cycle master, now data master as well. How many of you are collecting 100% of what you want to be collecting and you're doing it in less than 21 days? Nobody? Okay. So at some point you want to talk with Bob. I said how many were not. So nobody raised their hand. Everybody has an issue with it. So Bob is here. Other cool thing about Bob, physical therapist. Everybody in his family, even the dogs, are physical therapists. It's unreal. Everybody's a clinician. Also very successful private practice owner. So he's been in it with us in the trenches. Run DNA, Doug Adams is here. They do 3D analysis for runners. And we're going to do a live demo. We have a treadmill coming. We have we're going to do a live demo here after lunch. It's going to be awesome. How many of you have done a Run DNA demo before? Yeah, taught me how to run. I could barely run at all. I spent 5 minutes with Doug, and now I'm like a world-class sprinter. It's amazing. I haven't gotten hurt from running since we did it, so that's great. And I've run 0 miles. So great. Bright VR. How many of you see balance, dizziness patients, VOR deficits, any vestibular, anything along those lines? Great. So they have equipment that can help make everything objective if you're seeing patients with those diagnoses, and also treatment options as well. So make sure you check them out. Next up is hands-on diagnostics. How many of you are using hands-on diagnostics in your clinic? Make sure you say hi to Daniel Sage and also check out what they're doing with hands-on diagnostics, especially if you're looking to improve revenue per visit or revenue per plan of care. Sarah Health, Stephen is here. Yeah, Sarah Health does remote therapeutic monitoring. How many of you are doing that? Great. So make sure you talk with Stephen over the weekend as well. They're excellent to work with, talk with. For those of you looking to roll out RTM, again, get paid for services that you're already offering. This weekend, we will have Dan Neff, representing Breakthrough Manual Therapy. Dan will be here later this weekend. We are doing the course. How many of you are staying for the course on Sunday? A couple of you? Great. So that is available. If you just absolutely love Harrisburg and you want to keep hanging out here, that is available with CUs and everything else. You can see Lauren or, if you're for that. And then we have a virtual rock star. Awesome. This is Will Humphreys. Will, former practice owner, right, as well, and also former Breakthrough member at some point, first year. There's some front desk people in the room. I know at least one owner who might want to talk with you. If you're looking at virtual assistants, there's a right and wrong way to go about it. Make sure you have a conversation with Will. And thank you again to all the partners. How about a round of applause for
What would adding $10,000 to your bottom line do for your practice? Let me show you how with our program, Profitability Under Pressure. Hi, I'm Chad Madden, and I'm assuming that you're a private practice owner wrestling with profits, revenue per visit, hiring, and in the end, you want to help more people. I'm here with some exciting news for clinic owners just like you. You don't want to miss this. This course is a game changer. It's helped clinic owners add big numbers to their earnings. People like Joe and Kathy Scarpito, who doubled their clinic's value in under a year. Tony and Melissa Sear, they grew their practice from less than $1 million in revenue to over $3 million each year. Now, you might be thinking, is this all about money? No, it's much more. It's about taking care of your team, your patients, and your family. It's about making your clinic the best it can be. Let's face it, money in private practice isn't growing like it should. But don't worry, that's where our course comes in. In just 3 months, Profitability Under Pressure will teach you important business skills, like how to make more effective use of your space, how to increase your lifetime patient value and improve your payer mix. There's even a special part on hiring and retaining great staff. Joining means that you're not alone. You'll be part of a group of clinic owners, all working to get better. We'll be right there to help you. Are you wondering if this is right for you? Let's find out together. Apply to Profitability Under Pressure. It's easy. There's no pressure, and it's all about your clinic and your practice. You don't want to miss this. The application deadline for the Profitability Under Pressure course is June 7th. The program comes with a $10,000 guarantee. We guarantee that when you implement the strategies in the course, you'll increase your profit by $10,000 or more in 90 days, or your money back. Now's the time to make your clinic stronger for you, your team, and your patients. Click below to apply.